I want to bring in CNN's Richard Quest, who was actually, coincidentally, has been shooting a story on the airline and has spent time with the airline's CEO. This is obviously, I mean, we don't know exactly what's happened to this plane, but it is, I mean, mysterious that some 2 hours into the plane, we were talking during the break, you were saying that this is the safest time of the flight.
Yes, according to what we know so far, and everything that you and I now say must be caveated with its early days, but it was an hour and something into the flight. Now, this would be classed as the cruise portion of the flight. You break down the flight into taxi, take off, climb out, and then cruise. And so in that particular point of the flight, this is the safest part. Nothing is supposed to go wrong, if at all, in this part. The aircraft is on autopilot. The pilots are making minor correction and changes for height. As the plane burns off fuel, the plane will be going higher and higher. So this is extremely serious. It's always serious, obviously, but that it should have happened at this point in the flight, whatever had happened, whenever contact has been lost, that will make this a much more serious matter in that sense as to what happened. It wasn't taking off. It wasn't landing.
And I have not been on Malaysian Airlines for probably 20 years or so. What is, as a company, how is it? I mean, the safety record,
there is
modern fleet.
Absolutely. The plane that we're talking about, I believe it's the aircraft, the 777-200. Malaysian Airlines only has 777-200s, not the 300, which is the longer aircraft, physically longer aircraft. They have the older fleet. The average age of the Malaysian Airline 777 fleet is about, 14 years, 14.2 years. Not particularly old, not particularly young. This particular aircraft, if it's the one that we believe it is that's been involved in this incident, was delivered in it was 11.8 years old, delivered in the late 1990s. It had two Rolls-Royce Trent engines on it. It was delivered in 2002, thereabouts, so it's not a particularly old aircraft. Malaysia has 15 777-200s in the fleet, extremely experienced operators of this type of aircraft.
And is this owned by the government of Malaysia?
Yes, well, it's an odd hybrid form of ownership. The government, the part of the float of the shares is in the private sector. Part of it is with the government. The government clearly owns the majority. So yes, it is a government. It is a national carrier of Malaysia, a carrier that's undergoing all sorts of transformation and reform and restructuring at the moment. The chief executive having to make it profitable once again. At its last set of results just earlier this year, they lost several $100 million. So it's a carrier that's in transition, none of which would affect safety,
sure,
I have to tell you. It also, by the way, Malaysia also has 6 A380s in the fleet as well.
Well, we've just gotten word that the airline is apparently contacting next of kin for those on board the aircraft. 239 people, 12 of those crew members aboard the aircraft. Again, we do not know what has taken place with this aircraft.
As I looked at the flight radar track of this aircraft on its route from Malaysia up to Beijing. Now, we believe it's over Vietnam where this incident happened, but it could just be a little bit further over, almost to the coast of China.